Hello, my name is Antonino Raimondo. I'm a freshman at Wayne State University, and I'm a biochemistry major. This is my presentation on if we have oneself. Why did I choose this topic? I chose this topic because it can have a large philosophical influence on our answers to other philosophical questions. If we decide that we have either multiple selves, no self, one self, or something in between, then it can help us interpret our other philosophical thoughts and questions. And that's why I chose this topic. So these are some explanations of the answer to if we have oneself. So some individuals think that we do have oneself. It is a culmination of our mental being, emotions, and our motives, and also our memories. Another explanation is that we have multiple selves. Multiple selves is commonly known as having subselves, and subselves are produced based on um, our context, where we are, who we're with, what we're doing, how we feel. And now the last one is having no self. Having no self basically is the explanation that we cannot pinpoint a particular self because our self is, or us as an individual, is constantly changing, thus no one self exists. All right. My answer to this question is that we do not have one self. Reasoning? I think that we don't have oneself because we are constantly changing. And because we're constantly changing, we cannot pinpoint oneself unless we retrospectively look back on ourselves and say, this was myself at this certain time. Now, that isn't you, that was you. So even though you can, in a way, pinpoint oneself, it's not really the correct answer because yourself presently, as you're pinpointing that you had oneself previously, is changing and not comparable with that other self. So, because we're constantly changing, we cannot have oneself. My other reasoning is that since context can influence your the self that you identify with, the self that you put out, the self that individuals um, perceive you as, or how you are perceived by other individuals, it can cause you to not be able to pinpoint oneself yet again. And not only that, but because it's constantly changing based on the context, the multiple selves theory comes into play. And I think my answer to the question of having oneself is that not only do you have no self, but you also have multiple selves. And I'm relatively in between those two answers, whereas I don't believe that we don't have any sense of self, maybe from a perspective uh, um, uh, perspective of what we're going to be in the future. We cannot come up with that one self because we do not have any self for that time period. But also, I believe that we have multiple selves in which our context changes the way we act and the way we are. How can this be applied to modern times? I think the only reason that this answer, your personal answer or my answer, can help in modern times is giving someone a sense of purpose. If you think this is yourself, this is how you should act, this is how you do act, this is what you believe in, this is your morals even. Some believe that yourself can be made up of your morals and experiences, then this is what I should do with my life, this is how I should live, this is my purpose. And that's my reasoning or my application to modern times. To conclude, there is no one self, as we are always changing, and based on the environment around us, we are in our sense of. I apologize. Based on the environment, we are in our sense of self. Based on the environment we are in, our sense of self evolves. Thus, we have multiple selves. This is my works cited, and thank you guys for listening and watching. Bye bye.